It is. Hello, everyone. So I'm Kate. I'm a multimedia artist and member of the campaign. I first became aware of the development of sex robots back in 2015. During my final year of university, I was sitting in my student room browsing the internet and came across an article titled "Should We Ban Sex Robots?" At first, I found the idea of sex robots quite far-fetched, as I only ever knew machines like these existing in the land of science fiction, but quickly came to realise that this was a very real issue and one that needs to be addressed. So at a glance, these mechanised dolls look like something straight out of a porno. They're explicit sexual objects designed through the male gaze. I found them very offensive and became concerned about how they might reinforce existing sexist stereotypes of women and girls. And it also made me question the social, cultural and legal implications around the development of these types of robots. So why is there a market for them in the first place? It's interesting to believe that sex robots represent progress in the field of love, sex and relationships. Yet rather than presenting progress, it seems more likely that these sex robots are a re-articulation of an already widespread phenomenon, the treatment of humans as objects and the treatment of sex as a commodity. So over the past few years, there has been a surge of scholarly interest from academics and the wider public on this topic. And I think this tells us a lot about how sex and relationships are viewed more widely in our current and future technological landscape. However, there's a clear lack of feminist critique on the subject. We cannot risk taking a gender-neutral approach to this technology, as that only serves to obscure the real gender nature of the issue, which is why the campaign in this webinar today is so important. So I believe we need to adopt a humanistic worldview, which is capable of making sense of a culture that has normalised the commodification of sex and reconnect with what it means to be human. So at the time of my studies, my feminist response, using art as activism, was to produce my project, Logging On to Love, which is a mix of photography, moving image and sound installation, exploring the development of sex robots and artificial companions. So the aim of the work is to promote the audience and create discussion and encourage people to think about the current state of love, sex and relationships, particularly the role of cyber and robotic women in society. I think it's really important that we look at how digital, AI and robotic technologies are reshaping interhuman relationships and how the screen has become the meeting place of many young people today. I wanted my artwork to capture the sense of alienation and objectification that can occur through the use of technology. This is obviously something that has been accelerated during the lockdown period, and we don't quite know yet what this impact might be on people and society. So this new technological context makes the need to address gender inequality even more urgent, especially when it's primarily men who are designing a world that profoundly impacts the world for everyone. Young women are facing more and more challenges and threats growing up in the digital age, from social media to revenge porn and cyber stalking. The lockdown has caused a surge in the number of people contacting the Revenge Porn Helpline, which is a government-funded service for adults experiencing intimate image abuse. The traffic to the helpline's website has nearly doubled in recent months due to the increased use of the internet and social media. Technology can be used as a weapon towards women and girls, especially those who are in abusive and controlling relationships. So if we reflect on what is happening right now, what will the legacy of interaction be after coronavirus? Basic contact has turned into a problem, and our relationships with objects have become greater as we become even more dependent on them as a source of finding connection with others. And for those who already struggle forming and sustaining lasting relationships with people offline, this experience may have intensified those struggles. So the blurring of our real and online selves has transformed how we interact, as we spend less time with loved ones and more time staring at screens, the definition of intimacy has become even more ambiguous. People used to meet their partners through proximity, through family and friends, but now mobile dating is the go-to meeting place. These apps offer an infinite supply of potential mates, and with so much choice, people are now endlessly searching for their perfect partner. So relationships are now being treated like any other product. We can browse and compare prospective sexual partners, and if that doesn't work out, then online porn offers an endless choice for sexual satisfaction. And viewing porn is so appealing because it requires no effort at all. It's a quick fix for sexual satisfaction, and it's easy to identify why. A woman's willingness to participate in various sexual acts without question is appealing, and as porn becomes more interactive and immersive, choosing real-life relationships will become even less appealing. So this leads on to sex tech now. So porn has become a huge thread in sex tech. Interactive campsites now enable users to interact with porn stars live, and there are Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled smart sex toys that respond with vibrations when you pay with bitcoins, which online performers often use to allow users to control their pleasure. Virtual reality is also transforming porn in a huge way, and something that is way more accessible and much more immersive than your two-dimensional screen. VR offers the opportunity to move away from being simply an observer to being a participant, and this will inevitably change the experience and produce new problems. While there is an argument in favour of sex tech like this, such that VR porn could offer a more romantic and intimate experience for those who struggle to find a relationship like that in real life, it's hard to ignore the alarm bells that come with tech like this, that ultimately poses a greater threat to women and girls. VR technology could also allow customizable experiences of a kind that appear more real and more perfect than the real world. VR porn could open the doors to offering a perfect sexual experience with a perfect lover, creating a scenario in which no one in the real world could live up to. And for some, it could mean pushing boundaries further and allow people to act out fantasies that are violent and extreme. So a question to think about is, how would you feel if someone created a 3D model of you and could do whatever they wanted with you? Digital command over the human form raises questions over what consent means in VR experiences, and I suppose all sorts of digital technologies. And legally, is someone able to just reproduce and manipulate someone's identity without their consent? We need to consider when playfulness and exploration become about power and control. This is also very similar to deepfake porn. So deepfake is basically a new form of AI software which creates manipulated images, videos or audio recordings that look and sound just like the real thing, usually of people. Deepfakes are usually portrayed as a more political threat, but a recent report carried out by the group Deep Trace found that 96% of deepfakes found online are pornographic, and that more or less 100% of these videos are of women and are non-consensual. Initially, celebrities were targeted, and lots of deepfake videos went viral of stars like Jennifer Aniston and Emma Watson. But the report also shows that deepfake porn is evolving and increasing in number, and therefore increasing more victims. There was an example of a law graduate from Australia who discovered that someone took photos she'd shared on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, and used them to Photoshop her into nude images. And then they ended up creating deepfake porn videos using her face. Some people go further and pay for a customized deepfake of a specific celebrity they like or women they know personally. Taking a woman's face and their identity and putting it into this context reveals a long history of using sexual humiliation against women. These experiences can haunt women for the rest of their lives because this sort of stuff is out there and on the online world, and that's it. And we're all potential targets of this. So even if we don't watch it ourselves, porn demands our attention because of its prevalence. The nature of its content and its impact makes it a cultural influence we can't ignore. Porn affects the way we think, it affects the way we see each other, it affects intimacy, and it affects relationships. It distorts sex by separating intimate actions from lived relationships. Sex robots and dolls are part of this distortion. So we women have tirelessly contend society that we are human, that we don't exist for men's wants and needs. We've worked hard to free ourselves from marriages within which rape is legal, to fight compulsory heterosexuality and male-centered sex, to push back against sexual objectification and take ownership over our bodies, and to not fear of being thought as difficult, awkward, or frigid. And it feels like in response to this, sex robots offer men a solution to women fighting back. If you don't comply, we will create women who do. So the ideas behind sex robots, they aren't groundbreaking. They're an addition to the sex trade and built on the foundations of misogyny. Corporations behind these machines see them as big business and they are commercially driven, and we can't lose sight of that. Women's objectification and exploitation is always defended on the basis of the imagined sad, lonely man who has unmet sexual needs and lacks a companion. No matter what creators and consumers claim about the harmlessness or social good of sex robots, they project clear messages about male entitlement and what women are good for. The message being that sex is a thing men get from women or do to women, not a thing to be mutually enjoyed between people. I think a big misconception is that these robots offer men companionship, when actually they offer men complete dominance and an entirely one-way relationship. Sex dolls and sex robots may appear to be the perfect woman or the perfect lover, but they are not like women in a very key way. They have no voice. They don't bleed, they don't cry, vomit, feel pain, age, and they don't have memories, thoughts, feelings, desires of their own. And perhaps their biggest appeal to men is that they will never say no. Is it healthy to encourage a person to create a relationship with something that is so anti-human? So I think it's time we started talking more about love and empathy. For many, the biggest fear in life is never finding love. And in a time when we're able to connect to people all around the world, loneliness is on the rise. Are we moving towards a society of disconnection? Have we shot ourselves in the foot by having so many choices readily available, or the illusions of them? I like to believe there is more we can do as people and as a society to find alternative solutions to loneliness and unmet sexual needs than just creating machines to replace us. Of course, there are definite benefits of having sex tech, robots and AI in our society, but equally we need to ensure that technology develops ethically and do not perpetuate existing inequalities in society. The sex industry is successful in positioning itself beyond moral questioning. So when we look at tech, we need to think, will this advance or hinder society? And we need women in the room to play that part in the decision making. There is always a danger in this debate that we just end up blaming technology, but that isn't always necessarily the problem. It's how we use it. We can learn ways to better integrate technology in our lives in ways that enable us to form and sustain loving and supportive relationships, as well as to better navigate the dangers out there. But first and foremost, a collective feminist response is needed, whether through art, writing, campaigning, research, or just opening up a dialogue with people in your life. That's it. Thank you.